three. You want answers? I want the truth.
Now pushing the limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you all so much for joining us on a very busy news day indeed. It seems like I've been saying that every day, like for the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's really unbelievable. But we have a lot to get to today. You could be listening on the AM, FM dial locally here, KSHP. You could be streaming it. You could be on YouTube, TikTok. We're all over the place. The Occupy Democrats page, of course. The Washington Press page. We're everywhere. And we appreciate you making us a part of your afternoon, and we get calls from all over the country. Even in other countries, we've gotten phone calls. It's kind of wild. So we appreciate you being a part of it. We have a lot to get to today, a lot to talk about. Donald Trump, I know this might be a shock to some of you. He lied yesterday. I know he's a very honest guy, but he did lie yesterday about taking the stand. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what type of advice is he getting from his moron attorney, Todd Blanchett. We'll talk a little bit about that. Republicans attacking Republicans. I'm experiencing it firsthand, and they're nothing but lies. I had somebody in studio who's running for Congress against Stephen Horsford. Nice man. His name's John Lee. And his Republican opponent is lying about him, and the lies are coming from the interview that I did. You know, listen, people can attack other people and say whatever they want. That's their business. But when you do it from something from my show, I have a problem with that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Eric Bolling on Newsmax, who's a complete buffoon, having a meltdown on Newsmax, attacking Joe Biden for, wait for it, folks, eating a salad. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. So we do have a lot to get to. If you are an NHL hockey fan, as I am, the Vegas Golden Knights are playing Game 6 tonight at home in Las Vegas. And it could be their last game of the year. Vegas Golden Knight fans don't want that to happen. But the voice of the Vegas Golden Knights, love having him on, Dan Duva is going to be joining us in hour number 2. It is also Friday, and my co-host today is Ileana Drobkin, who's coming in, and we got a lot to get to. Ileana, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me, and just so nice to have it. It's Friday, so
it is Friday.
Happy Friday to everyone. I'm so excited for the weekend.
It is Friday. I need to play some golf and get Orange Man off my mind. But speaking of Orange Man, and by the way, if you're wondering, Hope Hicks has been on the stand.
Yes.
This is not good for Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. She's been making eye contact with the jurors. She's been very forthcoming with what reporters have been saying. We'll get to that. But yesterday, outside the courthouse, Donald Trump is now making new excuses of why he probably won't testify. Keep in mind, it was just a week or two ago that he was telling everybody that he was going to testify. And now listen to the excuse that Donald Trump is making for the reason why he claims, which is a lie, that he's not allowed to testify. Have a listen to this.
Well, I'm not allowed to testify. I'm under a gag order. I guess. I can't even testify at all. Now, we're going to be appealing the gag order. I'd love to answer that question. It's a very easy question, the easiest question so far. But I'm not allowed to testify because this judge, who's totally conflicted, has me under an unconstitutional gag order. Nobody's ever had that before.
Okay, first of all, you dope, you're a liar. You are allowed to testify. It has absolutely and positively nothing to do with the gag order. So Donald Trump is lying there. That's number one. Number two, there's nothing unconstitutional about this gag order. You can't intimidate jurors and witnesses. You can't say things like, oh, they're just a bunch, 95% of them are Democrats. And the reason why you can't say stuff like that, and the reason why the courts protect jurors, because if, for example, a jury comes back with a verdict of a guilty verdict, then they have to worry about their families. They have to worry about their protection. It's so obvious, but yet he says this is unconstitutional. He keeps breaking gag order after gag order after gag order. Throw this SOB in jail already and throw away the key.
But hold on, I will say it's more so the fact that for Trump, this is a proven thing, right? If he doesn't like someone and he goes out there and says they're after me, those people get death threats. Like this
Right.
is not something that they're into. That's something that they know. They know is going to happen. They know the threats are going to come, and he likes to rev that up.
Yeah, and
So,
what better person to talk about what's unconstitutional than
Right.
than Donald Trump, who wants to rip up parts of the Constitution.
who doesn't understand the
Yeah.
Constitution?
And his moron attorney, by the way, and he's had some really awful attorneys, whether it be a Michael Cohen or a Rudy Giuliani or a Sidney Powell. I mean, some of the worst, or Haba, some of the dumbest people you could ever have represent you. And this new idiot, Todd Blanche is his name. I've never heard of him before. I guess he's been a criminal defense attorney for a while. But as Donald Trump is saying in this video outside the courthouse, that now he can't testify, he can't go on the stand because of a gag order. You got this moron attorney that's nodding his head. This guy has to know. He has to know that his client is lying.
But he still they still serve out the pleasure of, right? So I wouldn't exactly blame all the attorneys. Do I think they're all the best? But hey, Rudy Giuliani, before he became this, was extremely well respected. He was a good attorney. He was a good prosecutor. So I think in this case, it's the moron is more the client who is in total control. They have no client control.
There are people that are attorneys in this country that are saying this is a serious ethical violation,
right?
In the middle of a criminal trial, that Merchant, the judge, must absolutely grill Blanche, and get to the bottom of why he lied to his client about his rights. I mean, when you're nodding your head like that, I don't know. Blanche, some people are saying should be disbarred for agreeing that Trump can't testify. I don't know if I agree with that, but
I don't agree with that at all. That's ridiculous.
So idiotic, though, that Trump would even make an excuse like that. Listen, he's been doing this in all of his trials. He did this in the E. Jean Carroll case.
He's not a typical defendant. Like that's kind of unfair to say that he's a typical defendant. He's not. He's not a typical defendant.
Well, he's the former president.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah. He's not the typical. This has never happened before. So the decorum, and I think the judge is doing a remarkable job.
Oh, yeah. The judge is doing everything he can, short of putting Donald Trump in jail. Obviously, a $9,000 fine for breaking a bunch of gag orders aren't going to do anything.
But I think part of that, they also don't want to disrupt the trial. They don't want to disrupt the flow of the trial. I think there's other considerations there that they're weighing.
And I totally understand that. But once again, Donald Trump is lying. Whether his attorneys told him, he will get absolutely obliviated on the stand by the prosecution.
And that's probably why he's not testifying.
Yeah, of course.
He can't not lie. So that would not work well.
This is what this guy does. I mean, he lies. He says he wants to testify. He wants to be up there. He's innocent. And then, he goes back and says, well, I can't testify now because of this reason or that reason. This is a lie. The gag order has absolutely nothing to do with whether somebody can testify or not up on the stand. Donald Trump is a liar, and he's also saying he's not fallen asleep. He absolutely has fallen asleep. Even right-wing reporters have admitted that he's been closing his eyes and putting his head down, and getting agitated and
they said he looks very small in the chair. He's one of the taller ones in the room, but he looks very small.
I thought that was a Stormy Daniels quote, but yes, but
very well could be as well.
Yeah.
But he looks very small and kind of pathetic sitting there in the seat. He's slumped over, and
he is. And I guess he's been whispering to his attorneys every 5 seconds, and from the reporters in the courtroom what they've said, closing his eyes at times and putting his head down
and looking disinterested.
So for all of you idiot right-wingers out there that keep saying Joe Biden's in the bunker and Sleepy Joe, well, guess what? Your guy, who's up on criminal charges and over 30 felonies in this case, is falling asleep in a courtroom. So I think you can put that one to bed about Sleepy Joe Biden. It's Sleepy Orange Turd. So while all this stuff is going on, right, and we're going to continue to monitor the trial, and Hope Hicks, my understanding is she's back on the stand now after taking a lunch break. We'll get back to that, but it is Friday, and I thought we would play a little bit of audio for you now from Newsmax. And listen, I'll be honest with you, Newsmax there's nothing news about Newsmax. They're a right-wing, knee pad wearing, non-news, Alex Jones type organization that will not and refuses to criticize Donald Trump for anything. They have no credibility. They are a joke. One of their anchors is the one that's dating Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they sell all this Trump memorabilia, or as I would like to call it, paraphernalia, on Newsmax. They have no credibility at all. And sadly, Eric Bolling is one of them. Now, Eric Bolling used to work for Fox News. It's a tragedy what happened to his daughter with a drug overdose, and I do applaud what he's done to help others that are suffering with drug addiction. I do appreciate that about him, but he is a right-wing fool. He got embarrassed by John Bolton a few months back. He is a bootlicker of Donald Trump, never will criticize Donald Trump for anything, and will attack Joe Biden for absolutely anything. And I actually have the audio to prove it for you. This is embarrassing audio. Because Newsmax and so many right-wing entities can't really attack Joe Biden for his record. They can't. They can try to, but they can't. They'll say and do anything to try to embarrass the current president, who happens to be 81 years old. So at the dinner last week, where, there were some very funny remarks, and I thought it was a fun night for everybody, Joe Biden is eating a salad. I watched the video. Looks very normal to me. He's not someone who is a pig like Eric Bolling, who will probably eat a mouthful of salad every 2 seconds. He wasn't quick. He was eating slowly and talking, and it looked very normal to me. So what does Eric Bolling do? He actually does a segment on Joe Biden eating a salad. Oh my God, how could this guy be the president of the United States? Look at the way he eats a salad. Now, of course, I'm laughing at this because he looks so pathetic. Not Joe Biden, Eric Bolling. The entire network is an embarrassment. Have a listen to Eric Bolling and listen to how angry he gets. I don't know if it's fake anger. You could tell me, and maybe the listeners can do. Is this fake anger, or is this real anger that Eric Bolling is so mentally ill that he's so angry that Joe Biden eats his salad slowly? Have a listen to this.
President of the United, the man with the nuclear codes at his fingertips, grappling with a bowl of lettuce. He can barely feed himself. Let's watch this for a second. This isn't slowed down. This isn't edited. This is Joe trying to eat a bite of salad. Just watch. Just watch. This man has a nuclear code. Look. That's the president of the United States. The man who's going to push back on Russia, China, North Korea. Are you kidding me? He can't even take a bite of his own salad. This man's not suited for the job for 4 more minutes, let alone 4 more years.
Yeah, let's do some play-by-play of Joe Biden eating a salad. And that's why he's not unfit for office. But let's forget about your orange turd Messiah leader, who has had over 25 women accused him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife. He's a proven liable sexual abuser in a courtroom. He's now facing 91, I think it's like 90 now or 89 felonies. But let's put all that off to the side. That's not important, right? Let's show Joe Biden eating a salad, and that's why he's unfit with the nuclear codes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was the guy who writes love letters to Kim Jong-un. Donald Trump is the guy who sides with Vladimir Putin over our own intelligence. This is the guy who defies a subpoena for over a year, showing the most classified documents to people with no security clearances.
But his followers don't care about those things, right? And it's all feeding into the narrative that the President Biden is too old, is too feeble, and it's just such a joke. But the sad thing is that those are his voters.
Yeah, I know.
That's the right. That's the pathetic part.
And I'd love to see Eric Bolling chow down a couple donuts. I'm sure he's not a pig at all.
And it was in a social setting. What is he supposed to do? Just like talk with his mouth full, or
it's so stupid. Eric is that Newsmax is such a joke. Eric Bolling is such a disgrace, and this is what they do.
This is what they do.
This is what the right does. But it doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen, because I found out how Republicans attack Republicans recently. It is quite interesting, and I want to play this for you. And then we'll take some phone calls. We'll take a break, and then we'll take some phone calls on the other side. So I had a guy in studio here a few days ago, Ileana. You know him. I know him.
My friend for over 20 years.
Yes. So his name is John Lee. He's the former mayor of North Las Vegas, and now he's running for Congress. He's trying to get the seat that Stephen Horsford has right now as a congressman. John Lee used to be a Democrat. He's now a Republican. I'll say this about him. I think he's a very nice man.
Very, yes.
I agree with him on a lot of issues. I think he's a reasonable guy. If we want to call him a Republican, I think he's a reasonable Republican. Yes, I don't like the fact that he's still supporting Donald Trump. I also understand that if you're going to win a race as a Republican these days, you probably have to vote for Donald Trump. It's sad. I wish he wasn't supporting Donald Trump, but he's a decent man. We talked about a lot of issues. We talked about gun control. We talked about, what's going on in Israel, the Palestinian conflict. We talked about Donald Trump. We talked about a number of issues, and he gave me honest answers.
Common sense answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of his opponents, who happens to be a Republican, and I don't even want to say his name because I don't want to give him any free publicity, I guess.
No, but I think you should say his name.
But his name is Flippo. That's his name. You got me to say it.
Horrible.
So they started. So he's a staunch Trump supporter, right? Staunch Trump supporter. And he served the country, which I do respect. But they went on the attack, a Republican attacking a Republican, attacking John Lee, as they claimed trashed Trump, which John Lee did not do. I do that every day. They said he trashed veterans, which he did not do.
He would never do either of those things.
And, put a poo-poo on the Second Amendment, which is also not true. So Flippo's campaign, and I don't think it was him, I think it was people that work for him,
Right.
are lying. Now, if Republicans want to trash other Republicans, go for it. I don't care. But you're not going to do it to somebody who comes on this show and lie about it. I'm going to give you an example. And let me start here with not necessarily a lie, but common sense and logic. I want to play you a little bit of audio, and I've played this before. This is Mr. Flippo's political campaign ad, and I'm going to play you a little snippet of it when he starts going after Democrat Stephen Horsford. Have a listen to this.
Meet Steve Horsford, a career politician turned lobbyist turned career politician again. Horsford votes over 90% of the time with the Socialist Squad and had an affair with a congressional intern.
Oh, wow. He had an affair with a congressional intern. So here is my response with John Lee in studio. They're attacking John Lee for agreeing with me on this. Any reasonable person that doesn't wear the Donald Trump knee pads would agree with me on this. Here's my response to this commercial. You won't find a more staunch Donald Trump supporter than David Flippo. Donald Trump has cheated on every single wife he's ever had. Donald Trump with the hush money payments and a liable sexual abuser. That was proven in a court of law. In my personal opinion, you couldn't be a bigger hypocrite when you're going to put that negative connotation on Stephen Horsford for having an affair, which he did, which I don't condone, and then be a staunch Donald Trump supporter who's never been loyal to one woman his entire life. I find it the epitome of hypocrisy. What do you say to that?
I'd have to say you're 100% right.
Yeah, John Lee's being honest. It's hypocrisy.
And he wasn't attacking Donald Trump in there. He was.
Yeah.
He's
not
calling it out for what it is.
He's
right.
calling out the hypocrisy of his Republican opponent. Right. Okay. And by the way, they go on Twitter and they say, oh, well, Brian Shapiro's saying you can't criticize Stephen Horsford. No, that's not what I said, you bozo clowns. You right-wing buffoons, you. That's not what I said. You can criticize whoever you want, but you're a hypocrite if you're going to go after a Democrat for cheating on their wife, which Stephen Horsford owned up to, which I don't condone, and then you're going to support Donald Trump, and you put that in your campaign ad, you look like a fool. You're a fool. You're a hypocrite. It's ridiculous. It's like saying, I don't condone bank robbers, but you know what?
Right.
My boyfriend or my girlfriend just robbed a bank last week. It's ridiculous.
And it's okay.
It's absurd. That's not John Lee going after Trump, or I do that. I'm talking about the hypocrisy of Republicans out there. And somehow they're turning this into, oh, John Lee, trashing Trump. No.
And I actually want to say something about John Lee because I've known him pretty much my entire adult life. And when you talk about, okay, so he was a Democrat, except, yes, he was a Democrat, but the Democratic Party was never nice to him. The Democratic Party never really supported him. So it's not, he was always more conservative than the average Democrat.
Yeah.
So the changeover wasn't exactly, it's not exactly a surprise.
Sure.
As the party, part of the party might have gone a little bit more to the other side, John just felt, I know he felt like a man without a party.
Yeah. And one of the people that runs Flippo's campaign, because I don't think Flippo did this stuff. I think his campaign people did. A guy by the name of Woodrow Johnson puts out a press release. Now, this is a guy who has done nothing but support and have clients that are MAGA fools that are election deniers, okay? So he puts out a statement about John Lee's interview on my show. This is the way Republicans treat Republicans. And then they wonder why they don't win elections. Anyway, the John Lee campaign continues to crash and burn. First of all, I don't even know where they get that from. Last Tuesday on Pushing the Limits, hosted by Brian Shapiro, a local left-wing radio talk show. Hey, idiot. I interview more Republicans than Democrats. You bring your clients on right-wing echo chamber shows. I'm going to name some of those shows that you've been on right now. And if they don't like it, I don't care. The Steve Sanchez show, okay? When was the last time he interviewed a liberal or a Democrat? This is a right-wing echo chamber show. The Wayne Allen Kook show. A guy who, by the way, got a letter from the Attorney General because he claimed he had pills that cured COVID. He said Muslims were responsible for the October 1 shooting. He said the Obamas had gay relationships. He went on social media and he said calling somebody old is just as bad as calling a black person the N-word.
So
These are the
gross.
type of hosts that you go on, okay?
Without viewership.
Yeah. So I'm not a left-wing host. In fact, I interview more Republicans than Democrats on this show. I am a registered independent that leans to the left on social issues, and I am very anti-Donald Trump, and I am unapologetic for it. But I am not one-sided. The entire week I've been going after the squad. So for you to call me a left-wing radio show makes you an idiot. Woodrow Johnson. And then he says John Lee proceeded to bomb the interview. And then I addressed this guy, Woodrow Johnson, and because he called him a liberal. He sounded like a liberal, he said.
No, not at all.
So I said, name me one thing that he said in the entire interview. By the way, I have this chat on social media in private message, so I have proof of this. I said, name me one thing that, just one thing. He was in studio for an hour and a half.
Right,
name me one thing that this guy said that is a liberal point of view. And he's like, well, I don't have to explain myself to you. I said, because you're an idiot. That's why. You're an idiot.
John's never been a liberal in his entire life. For
He
sure.
doesn't. And then they want to attack him because he wants gun control. That's a bad thing. You morons that always quote the Constitution, well-regulated militia. What do you think that meant?
It doesn't mean that someone with mental issues can go ahead and buy a firearm and shoot up a school or go into a synagogue or that's not what that means.
Some of these people that represent Republicans are so stupid. These PR firms and these companies that represent these Republicans, they're not doing them any favors.
No.
Now, if some of these people don't want to do this show, they don't have to do the show, but don't start attacking a Republican opponent of yours that actually has the guts to come in here and have a conversation.
Or if you're going to attack on policy.
Right. Right.
Not on stupidity.
Yeah. And by the way, John Lee's campaign is not bombing.
No.
He didn't bomb the interview. In fact, I had a lot of feedback from a lot of people. He's going to be getting a lot of votes from moderate Republicans because he did this show. So if you want to go on some of these other shows that have 4 listeners and you want to sit in your right-wing echo chamber because you guys are cowards, then fine. Don't do my show, but don't lie about it. Don't say, oh, Brian's going to be mean to me. I asked Woodrow to come on too. And he's like, oh, well, you're going to be mean to me. What is wrong with you guys? You're all a bunch of cowards. You really are. And this was the part of the interview where now and John Lee has a number of people in his family that served, by the way.
Right.
And I respect anybody that serves the country. I said that about Mr. Flippo. I'll even say that about Ron DeSantis, who I despise. But I'm never going to attack you for your service, right? That's just not who I am. And there was a point in the interview they're claiming that John Lee is crapping on all veterans. They said that on social media.
Never. He would
that
never.
he's disrespectful.
Yeah.
No. So I'm going to play you the actual clip to prove that Woodrow Johnson is a liar. And anybody that claims that John Lee somehow is crapping on our military, that is a lie. This is the clip that they put up, and you tell me if you think he's crapping on our military. Listen to this. But David Flippo did serve this country, and I respect that 100%. All I'm simply saying is...
But wait, let me talk to you about that.
Sure.
My dad was in the military. We were a military family. We never talked about politics because we worked for the President of the United States. I was born in England. We went to Roswell, New Mexico. We went to Mercury out here at Testify. My dad took orders, though. You know what I mean? He wasn't the guy at the top.
Right.
So every time I see Flippo's signs, it's got him and a gun, him in a military outfit. That's fine. I mean, it was a good life for him. Yeah. But I don't think he made very many decisions that when it came to really running the military of this country. And I'll tell you, number 2 is If he gets elected, do you really think the generals from the Pentagon are going to run down to his office and ask him, what do you think we should do about this?
No,
There's no value
probably not.
there.
Yeah, and when he's saying there's no value
All
there,
true. All
yeah,
true.
exactly.
It's just pointing out the obvious.
And when he's saying there's no value there, he's not saying we don't value our brave men and women in uniform. That's not what he's saying.
Right. He's saying the
Decision making,
Right.
depending on what rank you're on, either you're being told, doesn't mean they're not brave people, but it doesn't mean that you're making decisions. And when you're a congressman or a congresswoman, you have to make a lot of decisions, sometimes for the military with certain
Right.
policies that you would vote for or against. He's not crapping on our military members. He's not doing that. But these campaigns are so desperate that they want to attack somebody for saying something that is a blatant lie. That is a lie. And let me tell you something else, you MAGA fools out there. I'm getting fired up today, Ileana.
I see that. I'm enjoying it.
You MAGA fools out there. Donald Trump is the guy who called you suckers and losers.
Yep.
How do we know that? Because his chief of staff put it in writing to CNN. And somebody called in a few days ago and said, oh, no, they retracted. No, they didn't.
But he said it himself. Like, we've heard him say it. It's not like he said it in confidence and it came out.
But it doesn't end there.
He said it.
I agree. And it doesn't end there.
No.
Remember what he said about John McCain? I don't respect him because he was captured.
Not only John McCain,
Yeah.
but anybody who was captured, anybody who was killed,
Yeah.
who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, and
What would
our
you
families.
say about somebody or a campaign that wants to go after John Lee and lie, saying that he trashed our military, which, by the way, he didn't. I just played the audio. You took it out of context. He did not. But yet, a staunch supporter of the man who dodged the military multiple times with his bone spurs, a man who called brave people like you suckers and losers, a man who attacked John McCain for being a POW and has attacked Gold Star families and only recently attacked Nikki Haley's husband.
Right.
But you want to go after John Lee and say he's trashing the military? You want to go after Democrat Stephen Horsford because he had an affair when Donald Trump's cheated on every single woman he's ever been with in his life? He's never been honest to anybody. No, certainly not in a relationship. You are the biggest hypocrites out there, and you're a bunch of clowns, and you're liars, and you have no moral compass.
And can I say I could care less what happens in someone's personal relationship. I could absolutely care less. It might say something about their character, or it may not. Sometimes relationships don't work.
Yeah.
That's not for us to say.
Yeah.
But are they good humans? Can they? That's what you want to look at. So that is all irrelevant to me.
And I've been, and we're going to take.
I've been friends with Stephen too.
I've been taking this for years and years. Brian, you're a left-wing host. You're a liberal. Because I don't have a right-wing echo chamber radio show like 99% of the talk shows on AM and FM radio across the country. I call it as I see it.
I want to know what they think is liberal.
I don't brown-nose Donald Trump. I don't only interview people that I agree with. Sometimes I do, but I think you can attest, I interview more people that I disagree with. You know why? Because I think that's better radio. That's why. I want to hear the other side from somebody. I've had debates with Vivek Ramaswamy, Larry Elder, just in the last 7 or 8 months. I've interviewed Hogan Gidley, who's a staunch Donald Trump supporter. I've interviewed Trump surrogates. I do it all the time, locally and nationally. I interview people that I disagree with vehemently on so many different issues. But these right-wing radio cowards out there is what I will call them. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to be challenged because they know they're going to look foolish. They don't want to be challenged on anything, and that includes some politicians who refuse to do this show. And that's unfortunately what we're dealing with the Republican Party today in some cases. So I actually experienced this myself, a Republican going after a Republican. And lying about them.
But it's in the context of a primary, so that's not uncommon. The Dems do it all the time.
And I don't mind politicians going after politicians, but don't involve me and don't mischaracterize what my guest.
Right. The lying is frustrating because it's so easy to throw it out there, and it's so hard to try to explain to people, no, you're being duped. This is not what it is.
A guy who's a Republican who is willing to come in studio and have a discussion and debate on certain issues Don't you mischaracterize what he said. If you want to attack him on other things and lie, that's
or
your
come
business.
in and debate him.
Yeah, well, they won't do that.
Debate him live.
They won't.
We
do
would
that.
love that.
They won't do that. And these are the types of people that
Sorry,
refuse.
John.
They don't want to be challenged, and they don't want to come in studio, and they want to lie about me. It's just absurd. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We'll get your thoughts on this. Thoughts on Eric Bolling making fun of Joe Biden for eating a salad. That was quite entertaining. I also want to get people's thoughts on, Donald Trump. Why is he not taking the stand? He lies about the gag order, saying that's why he can't take the stand. I mean, blatant lie. I mean, if you're going to lie about something, at least don't make it so obvious that you're lying about it.
It's very possible in his mind, the gag order for him is that he's going to go on and say things that he shouldn't say on the stand, so he can't do it. Yeah. I'm guessing that's the logic behind that.
You want to talk about the biggest, I agree. You want to talk about the biggest coward of them all, the guy who dodged the military multiple times, the guy who is the biggest coward of them all. But the bad news for Donald Trump is now he's forced to go to his son's graduation. He didn't go to, I know he didn't go to Don Jr.'s graduation. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to open up the phone lines and take a break. Number to call, 702-221-7283. Again, 702-221-7283. I know the phone lines are jacked up right now. They're full. But we will have some phone lines that are open shortly, but keep trying to call in. 702-221-7283. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with your phone calls in 90 seconds on the other side. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Residents of Las Vegas, Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council. With a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen, I'm committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com or by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us on a Friday. Ileana in studio with me, talking about a range of different topics. I want to remind all of you guys, this show is here because of our wonderful sponsors of our show, and one of them is Pioneer Air. And I'll tell you what, the air conditioning is turned on, ladies and gentlemen. It's getting hot out there, and what better company than a company that's been around since the 1930s. Leo and the gang just do a wonderful job. And the good news is, if you call Pioneer Air, you're going to get a free VIP membership for a year. It's worth $150. You're going to get a couple free scheduled maintenances to make sure that your air conditioning systems are working properly. Give them a call, 702-703-6346. Again, that number, 702-703-6346. Tell them I sent you. You're a listener of PTL. You're going to get free scheduled maintenance and a VIP membership for up to a year at Pioneer Air. All right, Ileana, so we've covered a lot here. Hope Hicks on the stand today, and some riveting testimony. I'll say she does have a lot of credibility. She was right there in the thick of things.
Very credible.
Yeah, so that's been going on today. It appears as though at universities across the country things have toned down, and so that's a good thing. And while that's all happening, Donald Trump doesn't even know how to lie. I mean, it really is something else. And I'm not even talking about the 2020 election or the over 30,000 lies when he was president. Just yesterday, he goes out in front of the courtroom and says, well, I can't testify because I'm under a gag order. And then his stupid attorney, like a lab dog. So it really is interesting. And we're taking some phone calls now. We'll get to the lines at 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. And just some breaking news that I will share with you. The judge has ended witness testimony for the week after Hope Hicks wraps up. The jury has been sent home, so we will certainly cover anything new that is going to be taking place on Monday. All right, let's start off with Patrick. Patrick is first on PTL. What's up, Patrick? Patrick, are you there? Okay.
Like he's in a bathroom.
I don't know I think he's flushing. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Mark?
Oh, thank you, Brian. I'm glad I didn't follow with Patrick.
I don't know which Patrick that was, but you're up. You're first up. What's up, Mark?
I thank you. I'm not going to get into the Trump crime family. God knows how many crimes they have committed. But I want to mention something that you might not like, but I'm also going to mention something else about the Republican Party in general. How can anybody, whether you're a veteran, non-veteran, senior citizen, non-senior, or ready to retire, or got 20 years to retire, so how can you vote for a party that is actively trying to stop Social Security? There's a guy by the name of Mike Lee, I think his name is,
yes, correct.
Sitting congressman,
correct, yep.
Who was caught on a hot mic stating, our job is to stop Social Security.
Oh, sure, and then he denied it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now, the second thing I would like to mention, and I'll let you go, I'll make it short, is I don't know if you agree with this, but someone in the Biden administration should either be fired or brought up on derelict duty. All this nonsense about the trials being late and not going off before the election. Yeah, the Supreme Court has a little something to do with it, but Merrick Garland was sitting on his ass doing nothing and waited over a year before he appointed someone to try to indict Trump. What the heck took this clown so long?
Wait, can I respond to that, Brian? Is that okay? Okay, first of all, unlike Trump when he was president and tried to dictate what the Department of Justice did, the Biden administration is not doing that. The President Biden does not believe in that. So he is autonomous. They are trying to dot their I's and cross their T's. The object is not to just bring someone up on charges, especially an ex-president. It's to make sure that they have everything they need to try the case and to be successful in that case. So that's, or at least to make sure that they have enough to bring them to trial. So we have to be careful to not convolute the two.
No. To me, that's an excuse in the delay
it's
of
not.
Trump. What about Matt Gaetz? They declined to charge this clown.
Matt Gaetz is not the Department of Justice, though. That's a member of Congress who
That's
is
a federal crime.
a part of that. That's
What
but they have to get the information. It's really
Right,
easy to
but
sit there
here's
with allegations.
I'm not here.
Right?
I'm not here to defend
No.
Matt Gaetz, but what I will say is that they did investigate it, and maybe there's a possibility that there wasn't enough evidence to
Right,
prosecute him.
exactly.
Because the worst thing you can do is, you're going to try to
Bring
convict
forth
him on
charges,
something, and then he's
right.
found not guilty. It makes you look bad. So listen,
Well, his friend was convicted on this.
I know that, but if his friend was convicted, I'm not trying to defend Matt Gaetz. Did he have
They
sex?
may not have enough
Did he-
for him.
Did he have
Yeah.
sex with an underage girl? I would say probably. He's a scumbag. But unless they have direct evidence, just because his friend is in jail doesn't mean that he committed a crime. And I'm going to have
Yet the person on the Congress floor admitted that Gates was showing pictures of these girls being nude.
right.
It's if a crime, if an actual crime is being committed,
Right.
and we don't want to be like them, right? We don't want to be like them.
Joseph, I hear
That's
what
the
you're
thing.
saying.
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry, Mark. I hear what you're saying, Mark, and I appreciate the call. But here's the thing, right? We can all agree that Matt Gaetz is a despicable
Right.
human being.
Disgusting.
We could all agree that showing naked pictures on the House floor is despicable, but it's not necessarily against the law. It's despicable. You shouldn't be in Congress. Again, I'm not trying to defend Matt Gaetz. All I'm simply saying is I'm not a big Garland fan either, okay? But all I'm simply trying to say is let the chips fall where they may, and then we'll take it from there. 702-22, and thank you for the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Patrick next. Patrick, thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
Brian, yeah. This whole hush money case thing kind of reminds me of the Russia collusion Mueller report that everybody was so excited about. And then when the Mueller report did come out, everyone says, well, collusion's not a crime, just like hush money is not a crime. And even CNN has reported on today that there is no direct evidence as of yet that links Trump to this process that even took place.
Not true. You haven't been following the trial.
And it is a crime.
Not
Like
true.
what he's up on charges is a crime. That's why he's
Patrick,
up on
who said
charges.
payments
Patrick,
are not a crime.
Hold on. Let's backtrack
It's
a
how
little
they
bit.
categorized it.
Okay,
yeah,
so let's
it is.
backtrack a little bit. Patrick, which member in office said that collusion is not a crime?
Collusion is not a crime.
I
Brian.
didn't ask you to repeat it. I asked you to tell me where you got that from and which person in office said, quote, collusion is not a crime. You just said that
It's
people
no
in
crime.
Okay, I'm asking you where you got that from. You said people in Washington D.C. are saying collusion's not a crime. I'm asking you a specific question to what you said. I'm not asking you whether you think collusion is a crime or not. Which politician said collusion is not a crime?
I don't have that information.
Okay, of course you don't. So you're just again, you're saying something you don't know what you're talking about. All right, now let's go to the hush money case, okay? So there are witnesses that are testifying. They already have that what Donald Trump did was not a hush money payment for privacy with his family. In fact, there are multiple witnesses, and there'll be more that are going to say all he cared about was winning in 2016. He never brought up his wife. He never brought up his family. So the laws, the way they are stated, hold on, let me finish. Let me finish. If you let me finish, I'll explain to you no matter how much Trump MAGA wax you have in your ears. I'm still trying to explain it to you, even though you're not going to listen. The bottom line is there's a difference between hush money for family purposes and hush money to keep information away from the general public so that they don't find out about it 2 weeks before an election. That is against the law, and those are part of the felony charges that he has been charged with. What part of that do you not understand?
Are those state statutes or those federal statutes that we're talking about here?
It's federal. It's federal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
So
100%.
it's not that we are sure about it.
That's
It's
what it
what
is.
the laws are and why he's facing felony counts right now. And if you want evidence, because if you don't think there's evidence in the case,
Well, CNN is reporting that there still is no evidence, Brian. That's
oh
all
really?
I'm
Okay,
asking.
okay. Hold on. Let's go with that. Hold on.
Do you have?
Hold on. Okay, so let's go with another statement that you just made, and let's try to clarify it. You just said, quote, CNN is saying there's no evidence. Can you please tell me exactly what CNN said and what anchor or contributor said, quote, there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime? Can you please tell me who said that, Patrick?
Communications. It's a great point. There hasn't
Patrick.
yet directly.
I'm showing you on this. It's playing right now on CNN.
Okay, so right now on
I'll post it to
CNN,
your TikTok.
so you
I
don't
know. Who
know.
these people are.
So you
I
don't know.
who they are. I don't
Okay,
know
so
their names.
Patrick, give me the quote. Who said it and what was said? Patrick?
I've seen very little evidence here directing him directly to getting this accomplished.
Well, Patrick,
And
if
then
you
another
hear...
guy on the panel says, yes, I agree. There still is nothing. But Michael Cohen might bring something to the table.
Gotcha.
But
Patrick,
there's
I'm
something-
sure... Patrick, your information is very credible. Have a nice day, Patrick. Holy smokes.
He's
These
listening
people...
to whoever is going to validate it, some right winger.
Hey, Patrick, I just listened to CNN and one of the anchors just said you're a dumbass. They just said it. Jake Tapper just said you're an idiot. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian. First of all, hearing that story about that reporter talking about Biden eating the salad, at least to me personally, I say Joe Biden is more decent and he's fit just because he's eating right, unlike Trump, who's just eating nothing more but Big Macs and Diet Cokes, and I don't know how many he's been eating for his past year as president.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of the fact that he's now making excuses for why he cannot testify, lying, by the way? It's not even an excuse. Like, if you're feeling lazy and you don't want to, like, go to the supermarket, you'll make an excuse to your wife or husband, you know, I'm really tired. I had a long day today. That would be an excuse. But what Donald Trump is doing is saying, I think I'm coming down with COVID. I really don't want to leave. Or, a blatant lie is what I'm trying to say. He's lying. That's not an excuse. He's just lying. He's blatantly lying and saying that he can't testify because he alleges that the gag order states that he can't, which is a blatant lie.
Right.
How can anybody buy this? Are people that stupid?
Yes.
I know, that's what I was thinking, because the reason why Trump doesn't want to testify is not because of the gag order, it's because he's too chicken. And then he's going to lie his way out of it. But me personally, I say I've seen Pinocchio make more lies than Donald Trump does, and those are very good ones.
That's true.
Trump, he makes the worst ones.
If only, let's ask Stormy Daniels about this, but if only it could make certain parts of his body bigger if he lied, then he would, he'd be a porn star. Anyway, thank you for the call, Joseph. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
There's an image.
Yes, 702, that was for you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Kava. Do we have Kava next up on Pushing the Limits? Hi, Kava. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hi, how you doing today?
Good.
So I just want to start out first by thanking you guys for making this a safe LGBTQIA plus radio show. I want to thank you guys for that because you guys don't know how much that means to me and others like myself who don't necessarily have that safe space in the United States. Thanks to MAGA and their little...
You got it. Let me just say,
following.
Ron DeSantis is trying to get me not to say gay on this show, but I won't do it. He's trying to get... he wants it to be the Don't Say Gay PTL radio show, but
It's such a sad
I won't do it.
sentiment
I won't do it.
for the United
Yeah.
States that you have
But,
to feel like that. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
That's just
If
really
Ron-
it's heartbreaking.
if Ron DeSantis did a radio show, it'd be called the Don't Say Gay radio show. That's what it'd be called. Yeah.
But I also want to say that I find it funny how MAGA thinks the LGBTQIA plus community is the problem, but yet they are the same people, like you said, who are voting for an orange man who was held in court by his peers of sexual abuse, yet they still support him. That is where the hypocrisy stands with me is you can say that the LGBTQIA plus community is the problem, but yet you support that? Are you shitting me right now?
Well-
how can you sit there and say you support that, but yet you attack a whole minority group just for existing? That makes no logical sense. If for the maggots who are listening right now, here's a little tidbit for you.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere.
Well, it's
You
an
can hate us
ignorance,
all
right?
you want.
They're not going anywhere. And let me tell you something else, which I think is important for the electorate and the elections in November. The overwhelming majority of people that are gay are not voting on the right. The overwhelming majority of people that are minorities are not voting for the right. And guess what? that is the fault of the Republican Party
Right.
and what they stand for, or for lack of a better term, what they don't stand
and they
for.
don't stand for inclusion for sure.
Exactly. Thank you, Kava. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Tom. Tom is next up on Pushing Limits. What's up, Tom?
Hello, Brian. Tom from Syracuse again, and
What's
Ileana. Nice
Hi.
to see you. I've got to say that I was researching you as I do all of your people on your show, Brian.
Oh, okay.
And found out that Ileana is an author, and I am too. And I have a blog talk radio show called The Writer's Lounge. So there's my plug.
Cool.
But anyways,
That's awesome.
congrats on that. And Brian, stop using the phrase "orange man." Because I'm from Syracuse.
Oh,
Please don't
jeez.
do it anymore.
Okay, hold on. Can I say orange turd? Is that okay?
Or you can say orange Jesus.
Cheeto Jesus. Cheeto Jesus.
Cheeto
Okay.
Jesus.
You are right. I apologize to listen, I love Jim Boeheim. He's a legend. The Syracuse Orange.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want to offend any Orangemen fans. I'll either orange turd or Cheeto Jesus. All right.
Okay. All right. Stand corrected. Thank you, Brian.
Yes.
Bye, Ilya.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Good to hear from you. Have a great weekend. 702-221-7283. Orange turd. I apologize to the Orangemen fans in Syracuse. Let's go to Julian. Julian is next. Hi, Julian.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Ileana. How are y'all?
Hi.
Hey, not sure if it's a good thing that Joe Biden wasn't wearing a tan suit. Otherwise, the Republicans would have everything they need to finally impeach and convict him.
That's true.
That's funny.
That's very true.
Thank you. Real quick, before I get into the point I actually want to make, do y'all know what MAGA actually stands for?
No, tell me.
Make attorneys get attorneys.
I haven't heard that one before.
That's really good.
That's a good one.
Clever. I like that.
I haven't heard that one either.
I mean, look at how many of Trump's attorneys need people. So Brian, I don't know if you actually cover this, but I think it's like a good lesson in terms of like loud versus like what people actually want. But did you see who got elected to the student body president at Columbia for next year?
I did not. Tell me.
An Israeli student, not Jewish, Israeli.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
Which I think
Good
kind
for
of
them.
speaks to, yeah, I mean, totally. But again, I think that can speak to like the loud, and I think that we see this with like a lot of people where like the loud isn't necessarily the representative.
And I want to
Yeah.
say something. Being Jewish, Brian and I are both Jewish, so I kind of want to say
Same
something
here.
about. Well, good, we're all in the same tribe. But I want to say something like just because you or the students are protesting for the humanity of what is transpiring in Gaza, and I always say it is horrific. There is no way you can look at that and say it's not horrific, right? It doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic because you're saying, hey, this is a problem. We have 40,000 plus people, a lot of them, babies, women, children, innocent civilians. On the other side of that, what a horrible, for the Israelis, it is just, there is a no-win situation here because Hamas is using their their own people as human shields. They're safe underground in the tunnels, right? And so there is no, and you're never going to wipe them all out. There's going to be another one coming into their place. That's how it works, right? So it is such a complicated issue. Where I take issue of it is the demands of the protesters. I find that it doesn't even make sense. They want them to divest from Israel as if, first of all, that's going to do anything. If you really feel like that, unenroll, get out of the university. If you're really that adamantly opposed, get out of the university, but don't storm a building and then cause damage and expect that to be okay.
No, yesterday I was pushing back on somebody who basically was trying to minimize the attack of the October 7th, on October 7th. And their response, they knew I was Jewish, and this is a very liberal left-leaning person, was to accuse me of being Mossad.
It's just disgusting. The Ilhan Omars of the world, the Rashida Tlaibs of the world, they're disgusting human beings. They should not be in office. And anybody out there that would downplay October 7th as an anti-Semitic, despicable human being. And
but why can't we say that October 7th was horrific,
it's like saying,
inhuman, and also say what is happening to the civilians in Gaza
Sure.
is also horrific. Why
yeah.
can't we say that
Yeah.
without being accused of being
Well-
anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim? Like, why can't we just call it for what it is?
Well, it's kind of like, and by the way, thank you so much for the call, Julian. It's good to hear from you. It's kind of like, when Ilhan Omar is asked about anti-Semitism, she can't just call out anti-Semitism. She has to put out a lie and a cheap shot to all Jewish
Right.
people. Well, whether you're pro-genocide, Jewish or not, I mean,
right. No, that's ignorant.
she's despicable.
But it's just such ignorance. I don't even want to comment on her. I find her so ignorant.
Yeah.
But I'm saying for all the people who are
Well, you
just
should
out
be able
there
to.
who,
Yeah.
like, you're not anti-Semitic if you're saying,
You
hey,
should
what's
be able
going on
to.
is not okay.
You
right?
should be able to call out both.
Right.
Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. What's up, Paul?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good.
Hey, two things. My second one was a question. So basically, when it comes to Trump, I've determined this is how the psychological works, right? First, he didn't do it, and then you catch him on video. Well, he didn't really mean it. Then he goes to court, and it's like, well, he hasn't been convicted yet. And then when he is convicted, then it's rigged. So it's like you just these people twist themselves in the pretzel over this orange Jesus here. It's disturbing.
They do. You're right.
And for the other caller, that he called in and said, you stand up for gay people. I think that's great because, again, you know me, I'm a person of faith, but these Christians that support a guy that raped a woman, it's absolutely disgusting. I don't care what's on Hunter Biden's laptop. I don't care how big his penis is. I don't care if Joe Biden eats ice cream with a fork.
I don't care. I'm with you. Yeah, I don't care.
I care. I mean, I think about it 24/7. I wonder how big is Hunter Biden's genitalia, and I think what I think they should do is they should line up and we should see Donald Trump and Hunter Biden and do a measuring. I'm just kidding. That's terrible. A terrible joke. I'm sorry.
Horrible visuals. Horrible
This
visuals.
happened to two of my aunts. They were raped, and they're like,
"Oh no,
I'm so sorry."
But milk. I mean, think about it, Brian. Right? You're like, yeah, he raped a woman. No one's perfect, but gas was cheaper when Trump was in office. I mean, just think about
Paul. You are so right.
The lack of morality in someone that's worried about gas prices versus a guy that rapes a woman. Just think about that.
You are so, and this is that, Paul. You're so right,
And women being under attack across the country for basic health care.
So Paul, this is what I don't understand. It's like you see these people that call themselves wholesome Christians or evangelicals or whatever they are, and they have families, they have daughters, they have sons. I'm just wondering, if you don't want to vote for Joe Biden, fine. I'll disagree with you.
Right.
But if you're not going to vote for Trump or Biden, then at least I'll have some respect because I have some Republican friends of mine.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is these evangelicals out there and these people that call themselves morality, Christians or whatever they are, that will vote for a man. And if you don't believe E. Jean Carroll or the 26 other women that have accused Donald Trump of rape or sexual assault, let's just say hypothetically, all these women are lying, which is ridiculous. But let's just assume that for a moment. Grabbing women by the P word.
He says it himself.
His language that he uses, the way he talks about women and attacks them for looks, it's indefensible. And if your defense of it is, oh, I just like his policies. Guess what? That doesn't fly anymore. That doesn't fly anymore with me.
But not only that, what policies? Because I've asked that question. What policies did you like? Oh, all of them. Okay, well, that's helpful.
Hey.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask you a question, Brian. This is I think long term, right? The reality is at some point, I don't think these people thought this through. Even if he gets in, which I don't think he is, because I think enough people have decency in this country that aren't in a white grievance cult, because that's what it is. It's a cult of white grievance that they're always the victim of some boogeyman Antifa or guns or Mr. Potato Head or duvet toilets or whatever the hell else, trigger them off. How do you think the reality is? We can all have a difference of opinion, but we have to live with these people, and I think it's more disturbing. Trump isn't the problem. I mean, obviously he's the problem. It's the people that still support him that are the bigger issue.
Thank you. That's what I say
you know,
all the time.
Like
Thank
a cult, he's going to go away. But how do we live with these people once he's gone?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen. At least here's what I hope, and you guys can tell me whether you agree or not. I'd like to think that if and when, and hopefully Donald Trump loses in November, hopefully it will be the end of MAGA. Why do I say that? Well, the problem is that there are so many Republican politicians now that have to, at least in their mind, support Donald Trump if they want to win a Republican election. But if Donald Trump is out of the picture, I think it'll make it a little bit easier for these Republicans to be able to not talk about Donald Trump at least as much. So at least that's how I feel when it comes to that.
You can
They
take
just
that
seem to
one.
like losing.
I just don't
They
think
seem
that's
to like
going to
losing,
happen.
Brian, because they lost the White House, they lost the
They
Senate,
did.
they're
They
going to
did.
lose the Congress,
And Donald
they
Trump,
lost Arizona.
and make no mistake, Trump is going to do the same thing if he loses in November. He's going to say the Democrats cheated and you know they lied about it.
I know.
You know
They're
that's going to.
stupid.
Paul, have a good weekend, my friend, and don't keep
All
the
right.
orange turd on your mind. It's bad for your mental health. All right.
All right.
Have
See
a
you
good
guys.
Have a good one, Paul.
Thank you.
702-221-7283. Let's go to Tammy. Tammy's next on PTL. What's up, Tammy?
Hi.
Hi, Tammy.
First of all, I'd like to say that everybody bitches all the time about stay out of other countries' stuff. Just leave them alone. Let them do their own thing. But now, because people are being murdered, they think that President Biden can just step in there and go, stop it. You can't do that. It's not our country.
So I understand what you're saying. Would you agree with me, though, that when it's one of our allies and something that takes place on October 7th, or, for example, Ukraine being invaded by the evil, murderous dictator Vladimir Putin, that if there are allies, we should be able to render aid? Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page then.
But
So
why do people think that our president can go in there and just tell them what to do? He can't.
He can to a certain degree, right? There are certain carrots and sticks that that we, being the leader of the free world, the economic source that we are, we can do certain things. Yeah, no, we can't go in and say don't do this at all. But yeah, there are certain things we can do to curb to curb what they're doing, and we absolutely can. Whether or not, like I always say, I'm not in the room where it's happening, so I don't know all the different nuances. So why they're deciding what they're deciding. But we do have things that we.
But
can
I
use in our
agree with
arsenal, for
Tammy,
sure.
and what she's saying is that Joe Biden can't just, the flip of a finger, a magic wand, end what's going on in the Middle East, end what's going on in the Ukraine. That would be like asking Donald Trump to wave a magic wand and end COVID.
No,
I mean,
but we can affect things. Like I do feel that the reason why they are back at the negotiating table,
Sure.
Like Rafa has been postponed. As long as it has, and aid is coming in as much as it has, is because of our intervention and the rest of the world's intervention.
We have a voice.
No
we
question.
have a voice.
We have
at
a
the
big
table.
voice. Yeah.
Yes, I agree, Tammy. I appreciate. Where are you calling from, by the way?
Duluth, Minnesota.
Minnesota. All right. Well, go
hockey town.
Go Minnesota Timberwolves. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it, and thank you for listening in Minnesota. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I love the way she said that.
Yes, I do. Minnesota. 70 sounded a little Canadian there. 702-221-7283. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Robin. Robin is next on PTL. What's up, Robin?
Hi. So I love your show.
Thank you.
I've listened to it a few times. I think you give a lot of credibility to Democrats and give the Republicans their stuff right back. So I read an article today on the Washington Post that was really disturbing. And it's about a woman in Texas who went out of state to have an abortion. And now the ex-partner, not even ex-husband or whatever, is suing her and having it investigated. I don't know if you've read about this article.
I didn't. No.
Yeah, so I actually think this is a huge issue for this election.
Absolutely.
And where's it going to stop? And
Good question.
So basically, so basically the article is talking about, this is exactly where, the evangelicals, the far right want it to go. Now to be able to sue a woman for leaving, the state, and also those who assist her or do the abortion. And it's like, okay, so what, we're like we're leading toward, okay, so now is the next thing going to be like,
You're right.
Suppressing,
Women,
a woman from saying no for
so
sex,
Robin,
and
you're right. So
because
Robin,
they want a baby?
women have to start thinking like this, and I think a lot of them are. So here are my opinions on this. Number one, we heard Republicans for decades say we're not going to overturn Roe versus Wade. It's the law of the land. In fact, when some of the Supreme Court justices like Kavanaugh were asked about it, nope, I
Right.
respect it. It's the law of the land.
Settled law,
They knew exactly what they were going to do. Donald Trump knew exactly what they were going to do. So that's number one. Number two, Donald Trump wants to make the excuse, well, just leave it up to the states and let them decide, making it sound like people like you and people like me and people like Ileana have their vote. That's not what happened in Arizona.
No.
And make no mistake about it, the reason why they repealed an old law back in the 1800s was not because these Republicans care so much about women and their bodies. It's because they want to remain in power, and they knew it was bad for them politically. What happened in Alabama is a disgrace in that Supreme Court. So you bring up a very good point, and I say this all the time, and you're right. It's not that you think it's an important issue. It is. It's the number 2 and most important issue for people in this country on abortion.
And it absolutely should be.
And when a Republican says, oh, we'll just leave it up to the states, let the voters decide.
No, so wait, so you're going to have all the women in red states not be able to have access to health care that's a right, and all the people in blue states who are, that doesn't even make sense. That makes zero sense.
But also, what they're trying to also do is now criminalize the people in the blue states, like the doctors or whoever. So this is a very big issue, and I think it's about human rights in general. This is a big takedown.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something.
Women have to go out and vote.
You have to be a certain type of person to say that if a young girl, or any woman for that matter, is raped or the victim of incest, that they should be forced by the government to have that baby. You have to be a certain type of psycho individual. Psycho is the only word I can use. You're a psycho, okay? If you're pro-life, and I don't like to call it pro-life because a lot of these people are just anti-abortion. They're not pro-life.
It's not pro-life.
But if you want to call yourself that, yeah, that's one thing. But if you're going to force a 13-year-old girl to have a baby after she was raped, you are a psycho.
Wait,
okay?
but not only that, here, because I'm female and I have a daughter and you have a niece, and I'm going to take issue with that, is aside from that, if it isn't rape or incest and it's just someone, and they found most of the women who are having abortions are married. They're married. They have other kids. Say it's not even a health issue, but it's still their choice. It should still be their choice because they have to be responsible. They're the primary caregivers, right? Women are still primary caregivers.
Absolutely.
So then something happened. Like, we should still have that choice, or God forbid you get the diagnosis and says, hey, this kid is going to be so developmentally there's something wrong with it, and it's going to be a lifetime. And it's going to be a lifetime for the child. It's going to be a lifetime for you. You should be able to have that decision.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. Robin, where are you calling from, by the way? What state are you in?
I'm from New York, and I actually had that situation. I was married. I wanted a child, and at 6 months, I found out it didn't have functioning kidneys, and it would have been on dialysis the rest of its life. And when I think of the poor woman who had to go out of state because either, I can't remember if it was the child was at risk or she was at risk, or the child just was not normal and put her at risk. I mean, these are just like incredible. I just can't believe. I mean, I'm 64. I can't believe I'm a professional. I can't believe where we are right now.
I can't believe it either, but guess what?
And they're heartbreaking decisions.
We need to defeat them at the ballot box, and I appreciate your call, Robin.
Vote.
Thank you so much.
Bring 702 your friends to vote.
Yep, absolutely.
And don't vote for RFK Jr. Sorry, do not throw the vote away like that. And I'll say that.
I'm with you on that one.
We have two choices in this. It's either going to be one or the other.
702. Speaking of two choices, 702-221-7283. Let's go to JD. JD is next on Pushing the Limits.
Thank you. Brian, ever since listening to your show, since you've been affiliated with Occupy Democrats, which I believe is the equivalent to Alex Jones on the left.
I don't care
and
what
listening.
I don't care what your opinion is on Occupy Democrats.
But it's okay. You can have your opinion.
Yeah, I really don't care. But go ahead.
And
Jamie.
listening to the majority of your callers, they are not very well read.
Okay, so tell me
They
what.
are
Okay,
just-
so let's go into that. Let's
I
go
think
into
they're
that.
very well
Hold
read,
on, Ileana. Instead of just making blatant statements about callers, give me a specific example that somebody said on the show that you disagree with, or that. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? What's so funny?
Because 9 out of 10.
I don't care about your
are
JD.
illiterate
JD.
illiterate dumbbells.
Okay, so JD, I could say the same thing about you, but I don't want to go down that road.
Which-
so what I,
which
JD,
you do, which
JD,
you do.
JD, I don't want to go down that road. So please listen to my question instead of your listening to your Tucker Carlson feminine laugh. Okay, JD, I want you to listen to me. I'm asking you there it goes again.
Hey,
JD,
Howard.
I want you to
Hey,
listen.
Howard.
Hey, JD. Hey, JD. Hey, right wing buffoon. I want you to listen to me. Okay. You don't like my callers because you call into these right-wing radio shows because you guys are a bunch of right-wing MAGA buffoons who wear your Donald Trump knee pads. Now, again, I don't want to go down that road, so I'm asking you a very specific question. Name me one of the callers on this show today that said something that you disagree with, and we can have a conversation about it. Now, saying that somebody is illiterate because you disagree with a policy or something they said makes you an idiot. So let's be specific. Be specific. Be specific.
First of all, Mark and Roy from New York, and Mark.
Roy did not call in today.
I didn't say he called in today, but Mark did. Are just either illiterate.
There you go again, JD. You're not answering my question. JD, I'm gonna pod you down now. You keep calling people illiterate, and you don't like some of my callers. JD, I'm going to ask you now for the last time because you're the only person making yourself sound like an illiterate buffoon. I'm going to ask you to be specific, and I'm giving you another opportunity. What did somebody say on this show? Can you form an articulate sentence and have a conversation of why you would call somebody illiterate? What did somebody say on this show?
All right, let's go to Kava.
Sure.
Every time he calls in, he thinks that we are out there to kill him. He makes statements.
Pot him down.
That's
Kava,
not what he said.
Hey, JD, you're an idiot. Kava never called into the show and said, quote, Republicans or MAGA morons like JD are out to kill me. So now that you've just given your first example, which is a blatant lie, he does talk about discrimination. He does talk about people like you who discriminate.
And having a safe space.
So you're 0 for 1, JD. The count is 0-1. I just threw a strike down the center of the plate. Would you like to give another example of why you think some of these callers are illiterate? Because you just failed miserably with the first example.
Well, I'll throw a knuckleball back at you. His tape. Play his tape back and where he said kill. Play it back today.
Okay, I'll play the tape back right now so my producer can go back because JD makes a claim that is not true. JD, if you think they're all illiterate, then give me another example.
I'm not going to give you examples of things that are said every day.
I'm not going to give you another example. You sound, hey, what's wrong with your stutter? Because you make fun of Joe Biden for stuttering. Hey, JD, it sounds like you have a stutter, my friend. JD, are you in the bunker? Do you have Alzheimer's, JD? JD, do you know where you are? God, I watched you eat a salad, and it was really pathetic. JD, are you in the bunker? Are you in the bunker, JD? JD, are you illiterate? JD, what's your education? Have a nice day. Get off my show. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
It's just like when they call in and say 9 out of 10. Well, where are you getting
Stupid
this?
fool.
Where are you getting this information?
Boy, it sounded like JD just developed a stutter, didn't you, JD? Hey, JD, let me be very clear. I'm sorry that you don't like the fact that this is not a right-wing echo chamber show. I'm sorry that you don't like the fact that so many, not all, but so many people who call into this show are on the right side of history. I'm sorry that you don't like the fact that so many of my listeners and callers won't buy a Donald Trump $60 Bible. They won't buy gold sneakers for $400. They won't say the election was stolen. I'm sorry you don't like the fact that these people are intelligent people that are logical people. I'm sorry you don't like that. So here's my recommendation to people like you, JD. Go back to your right-wing echo chamber safe space. Alex Jones is the guy who said the school shooting in Sandy Hook didn't happen. Name me one thing in my 20-year radio career that I have ever said that you disagree with that is anywhere near close to being that despicable. Name me one thing. To compare what I do to a conspiracy theorist piece of human garbage like Alex Jones says all we need to know about you, JD. We know enough about you to know what you're all about. But let me tell you something. I'm not changing what I do because of some right-wing MAGA idiots like you that wear the Donald Trump knee pads. I'm not changing what I do because for every one moron like you, who, by the way, listens to this show every day and calls into this show all the time, you probably pleasure yourself to a poster of me in your bedroom. For every moron like you that bitches and complains, I've got 1,000 people that love what I do. So you can go fly a kite. 702-221-7283. I'll tell you guys how I really
Lots
feel.
of imagery today.
Let's go to Chuck. Chuck is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Chuck?
Hey, Brian. I called in weeks ago. I guess it was your birthday that day, and I didn't realize until after.
I'm old. I'm an old man. Hey, I think I'm going to abort JD from calling in. What do you think? Should I abort him? What do you think?
Absolutely, and I think JD stands for just dumb.
I think you're probably. Oh, don't be illiterate. Don't be illiterate. Yeah. Oh, 9 out of 10 of your callers are illiterate. Oh, can you give me any examples of that? All of a sudden, JD developed a stuttering problem. Joe Biden can help you with that. He's a compassionate man, JD. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, I was arguing on Facebook last night with a high school classmate that's just like JD, just like this Patrick guy that calls in all the time.
Yeah.
And I confronted him. I mean, he's blasting the Democrats, and I go, well, tell me, what have we done? What has the Democratic Party done that's so bad to make your pathetic white supremacist life so miserable?
Yeah.
He can't answer me. And tell me at the same time, what's the Republican Party doing for you?
Yeah.
What? Because they're giving away everything. They're taking away everything from them. They're not doing anything for their constituents.
It is, and you are correct. And you know what I tell these people? If you don't like some of Joe Biden's policies, what do you want to do to solve the problem at the border? What do you want to do to solve all the division and hatred in this country and the economy? And, you know, what are you going to do? And if they're going to complain about Obamacare, where's your replacement plan? If you're going to talk about how Democrats want to take all your guns away, which they don't, what are you going to do about all the gun violence in this country? They literally have no solutions to any of the real problems facing this country, but yet they want to blame Joe Biden for all their problems.
Absolutely. And what's going to happen to all these little MAGAs? You know, even I provided Trump loses in November, which I think he's very well on the path to losing. But I mean, what's going to happen to these people? I don't want anything to do with them. None of them are capable of apologizing thus far that have already made the switch and dumped Trump. They don't. They're non-apologetic to any of their decisions they've made. Family members, longtime friends alike. I mean, they're just. I'm just in total disbelief.
I will say this though, because I have personal friends of mine that are apologetic. Joe Walsh, former presidential candidate. He's a friend of the show. He comes on all the time. He admits he was wrong. He admits he was wrong.
I'm aware of him.
Amy Tarkanian, the former Nevada Republican chair, who's a personal friend of ours, does this show a lot. Wonderful lady.
Yep.
She admits she was wrong. She's anti-Trump now. So there are some. Maybe they're few and far between. But there are people out there. Chris Christie is another one that comes to mind. There are Republicans out there that are saying, hey, you know what? I was wrong. I thought he was going to do this, this, and this. But I hear what you're saying. The overwhelming majority of them are unapologetic, and you're right.
I mean, my brother voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They all my whole family slammed me right after the election in 2016. I went home for my mom's birthday. We're all at the Outback, and my brother makes some crack to me. Response to me and says that's because you're a Democrat. The entire table busted up laughing at me.
Well,
and you know, confirming they all voted for Trump, and now he's anti-Trump, but he's still in that camp. He's just dumb.
Well, here's what I think you should do. I think you should have him call into the show, and I'll teach him a lesson.
Well, at least he's anti.
Well, he won't. I mean, but but I've got this classmate I'm arguing with, and I'm not friends with him on Facebook, but I am friend with a mutual friend.
Yeah.
So he chimes in. He's just an idiot, but I encouraged him to call into this show. And
Listen,
then
here's the thing, right? I'll be respectful to people if they're respectful to me. The last caller calls into this show and he starts insulting me, comparing this show to Alex Jones. He starts insulting Occupy Democrats. So if you're going to start a conversation by insulting me, I'm going to give it back
and
10 times.
insulting our callers.
I'm going to give it back. I'm going to give it back 10 times harder. If you call into the show and you disagree with me and you want to have a debate or discussion, I do it respectfully with people every day. But if you're going to be condescending and disrespectful to me, it's not going to go well for you. And I appreciate the call, my friend. Have this guy call into the show, and I'll try to be respectful. Let's go to Bob. Bob is next. What's up, Bob?
Hello, Brian. This is Bob, who gave Trump the nickname Chief F-U-B.
Come again? What did you give him the nickname of?
Chief F-U-B. Remember said excuse
Yes.
for human being?
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
I like it.
Anyway, you just gave me a brilliant idea, and
Okay.
I need a partner. I want to know if you'll go in with me. I ordered 1,000 knee pads from Amazon, and I'm going to have them inscribed as MAGA knee pads, and we'll sell it for $19.95.
I got a question. I like that idea, Bob. I have a question. Who is the first person you would give that set of knee pads to?
Close friend.
Okay.
I had a cousin and a friend who actually turned around, originally voted for Trump, and now they're anti-Trumpers. But I got another friend. I can't talk to him about it, but maybe if I give him a pair of knee pads, he might listen.
I'll tell you something. I'll give some of those away to like a JD type caller, give them some Trump knee pads maybe as a gift. I'm sure he can use them. Yeah, Bob, I like that idea, my friend. I want you to call me back next week and tell me how those knee pads are going, and maybe we can give them away to some people. Definitely
send in a photo
to a man or a woman, by the way. This isn't a chauvinistic thing or a sex thing. A man or a woman could absolutely.
There are a lot of women
yes.
Trump supporters.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Woman
it,
or man. When I use the term "you wear the Donald Trump knee pads," you could be a woman or a man. I don't want people to think it's like one side or one gender, because it's not. Because we gotta take a break. Should I take one more phone call? Who am I going to here? All right, let's go to Gary, who wants to stand up for JD, who called in. Hello, Gary.
Yes, and you get no breaks. I'll say as much as I can, Mr. Give me facts and all that stuff. Do you think that just perhaps using those kind of analogies, they're wearing Donald Trump knee pads, doesn't that make your personality a radio guy, like a radio pig in a way?
No, I don't think it does at all. In fact, I'm being honest. When I use that terminology, you wear the Donald Trump knee pads, it means you kiss his ass. It means that you're willing to suck up to him. Do you understand the analogy that I'm trying to make when I say you wear the Donald Trump knee pads?
Well, then you should have a disclaimer and say that.
No, I don't need a disclaimer. I think I need a disclaimer before you call in. Ladies and gentlemen, on PTL radio show, Gary, who's defending one of the dumbest callers I've ever had on PTL, JD. Gary, go right ahead. There you go. There's my disclaimer.
Well, he's loyal.
I'll give you a disclaimer.
Loyal.
Are you ready?
He is loyal. You're right.
He's a loyal idiot.
You like to disrespect people.
No,
I think it's time to stamp.
No, I think I like to disrespect people when they disrespect me first. Do you understand? I fight back, and I'm sorry you don't like that, Gary.
The same ones keep calling in, so they're fans nonetheless.
I grow on them like a fungus. They just can't get enough of me. Thank you for the call, Gary. I appreciate it. But there will be no disclaimer. If there's any disclaimer I ever did on this show, it would be Brian and Ileana are going to be honest. We're going to tell it like it is. Some people are going to agree with us. Some people are going to disagree with us. You can call into the show, but when you start the phone call by trying to insult me, it's not going to go well for you.
I do appreciate that Gary was kind. He was nice.
Yes.
And
JD was not.
I absolutely appreciate that, Gary.
By the way, just for everyone,
that was
so
nice.
everybody understands, the guy who called in, JD, left me a note at my other station. He wanted to be the fill-in for me. He's a wannabe radio host. That's a never was. And he's just jealous, but that's okay. JD, it's okay to be illiterate. You can go back to Trump University and try to get your degree if it still exists. I don't know if it does. All right. Well, Ileana, thank you so much for doing a show with me today where I'm just fired up today, man.
I know. I love it.
I'm just fired up today. But speaking of fired up, we're going to keep the Occupy Democrats feed going. We have a lot of people talking on there and a lot of people on our social media platforms. So we're going to keep them doing that. But I do want to talk a little hockey when we come back. The Vegas Golden Knights, Game 6 at home against the Dallas Stars. And the voice of VGK Hockey, Dan Duva, joins us next. Check out my friends, by the way, at Jackson's Bar and Grill. It's located at Flamingo and Jones. And the great thing about Jackson's Bar and Grill is tonight they have the Pass the Puck contest. I believe if you win more than $25 on any given hand, if you hit a 4 of a kind, and before the end of the period, if you're the only person to hit it and it doesn't pass the puck to somebody else who hit a 4 of a kind, you're winning free slot play and upwards of $50. So please go to Jackson's Bar and Grill. Check them out. Tell them I sent you at Flamingo and Jones.
And the food is great.
It is. It is awesome. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Dan Duva, the voice of the Vegas Golden Knights. It's PTL right here on KSHP.
Dan Duva. Perfect.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find? My name's Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today, 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, we talk about so many different issues on this show. It's nice to get in the world of sports. We talk VGK hockey on this show, and there's a lot of Vegas Golden Knights fans out there that do not want this to be the last game of the year. I'm one of them. Not only do I cover the team, but I'm also a fan of the team. I want them to win. This is what we would call a must-win game. It's Game 6 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Dallas Stars back in town really has been a very close series all the way, every game. And tonight, Adin Hill, I believe, is in net. And the Knights have no choice. They have to win to extend the series to 7. And what better person to talk about this than the guy who does a great job, the voice of the Vegas Golden Knights, and I always appreciate it when he takes the time. Dan Duva joining us right now. Dan, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. How are you? I'm doing great. I appreciate you making the time. All right, what's your first thought? Your first thought on this game tonight, what enters your mind?
Pressure. And pressure was a word brought up to head coach Bruce Cassidy this morning, and like he has in the past, he kind of puts it off. And he did this last year when the Knights were playing at Edmonton and said, you know, pressure is a real world problem, that firefighters and police officers, at the time we were in Edmonton, there was a hostage negotiation going on. Those people have pressure. We have a responsibility and an onus to play better, to play for each other. So the energy from Bruce Cassidy, and I think mirrored by his players this morning, was not one of a club with its back up against the wall, though that is numerically the case. They have to win today. It is the experience, the championship tenor that they won it last year. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. If there's a tense moment, they know they've been there. So there's not too much, I guess, tangible pressure that for the players and coaches. They are of the belief that they can be better. They've been good. It's a very close series, as you mentioned, but they can be better than they have. Trying to find the right combination of players. But yeah, the big picture for this team, Brian, was the first thing that came to mind. They have not lost an elimination game at T-Mobile Arena since the last game of the 2018 Stanley Cup Final.
Wow. That's incredible. What are your thoughts, Dan, on Adin Hill getting the go-ahead start tonight?
Yeah, a little bit surprised, but I was also surprised that he played in Game 5. Logan Thompson had seemingly won the job, given the way that he performed in the second half of the season, especially down the stretch in Adin Hill's absence. And really, I should say absences. Hill has been in and out of the lineup this year dealing with a lower body injury, and some stretches he has looked fantastic, especially to start the year. Looked like he just picked up where the playoffs left off. But Logan was clearly the guy who claimed the number one spot going into the playoffs and won the first two games, was outstanding in Game 3, 43 saves on 46 shots, but the Knights lost in overtime. And then Logan played Game 4 as well and lost another close game. But, Hill was the guy that defeated the Dallas Stars in the conference final last year. He's a bigger guy. I think there's a certain loyalty to the fact that Adin Hill won the Stanley Cup for this team and signed a contract extension in the offseason. He has been the guy, and just the way that he plays, his frame, the style, is perhaps a stronger type of goaltender against the Dallas Stars, given the style that Dallas plays. Mm-hmm. And, the Knights did not lose Game 5 because Adin Hill was below average or anything like that. Sure. But I would say a little bit surprised.
Yes. If you're just joining us, Game 4, I do want to talk a little bit about Game 4, the last home game. Before I do, is Dan Duva, the voice of the Vegas Golden Knights, joining us. Game 6 is tonight. Dan, I can only go by what I watch in person. I think you can see things when you're watching a game in person that maybe you can't really see on television. Mm-hmm. I felt like in Game 4, which was the last home game, they got off to such a great start at home. They were pumped up. They were physical. They were winning the physical battles. It felt like they should have had a lead at the end of the first period. Instead, it's 1-1, right? And then I felt like they came out the beginning of the second period just as strong as they did in the first. I felt like physically they were tired. And I don't know if I'm wrong on that. I'm just going by what I'm seeing. I felt like they ran out of gas a little bit in the third period because they expended so much energy to start that first and second period. Would you agree with that? And do you feel like, you want to get off to such a great start, and clearly that was the case in Game 4 after what happened in Game 3, but I feel like you don't want to exert all your energy right off the bat.
Yeah, I'll agree with that partially, Brian, because number one, in contrast to Game 3, when they had a pretty pitiful start to the game. Now they weren't, right. They weren't falling behind. They ended up coming from behind and tying that game 2-2, but they just did not seem as ready as you would have expected for the first home playoff game since the Stanley Cup Final. Yeah. So how they started in Game 4, I think, was a direct response to that and how they started. And I think then as the game goes along, teams sort of settle in. And I think that there are some guys who might be, your word was tired, that might go hand in hand with, players who are, the phrase is banged up, are you hurt or are you injured? Some guy like Marchessault, Barbashev, and McNabb played all 82 games, but even guys who, clearly William Karlsson isn't 100% because he hasn't been practicing and he's not really taking face-off. So we don't know exactly what the deal is, but clearly it's not quite the same, and he doesn't have any points in the series. Then you have other guys like Tomas Hertl, like Mark Stone, and even Alex Pietrangelo, who did not play for a long period of time, and they're trying to get back up to speed. So it might, in those cases, might not be tired. They're just diving into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Stone hadn't played since February 20th. With Hertl, he hadn't played. He did play at the end of the regular season, but his knee surgery happened back in late January. So those guys are, trying to catch up to speed. So I think that, and then obviously trying to figure out different forward combinations.
Right.
So I think that there's a little bit of that. So I think that it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you make a couple of mistakes in Dallas, which has been very healthy this year. Pretty much the same lineup night in and night out.
Yeah.
They were opportunistic.
So Dan, I'm going to give you my two things that I think need to happen tonight for them to get the W. You tell me if you agree or not.
Okay.
First of all, you can't take stupid penalties. I hate to use the term stupid, but undisciplined maybe is a better word to use. Undisciplined penalties, untimely penalties. That's number one. Number two, Marshy is such a huge, as you would agree, I'm sure, big part of this team, the glue that sticks everything together. He hasn't scored last 3 games. They need his offense. He needs to score a goal tonight, or at least get involved a little bit more. I love Marshy. We all do. They need his offense. So I think if they can stay out of the penalty box and maybe get Marchessault a little bit more involved in their offense, I think they're going to win tonight. I just think those are 2 huge keys.
Yeah, at first on the penalty side of it, and you're right, a couple of the mistakes that have been made were undisciplined. Chandler Stevenson, just instinct takes over. You play the puck with your glove at the face-off, even though everybody knows you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Pietrangelo, kind of gets run, and then the needless response with the backhand slap, essentially, which led to a penalty. And go back to the previous game, Pietrangelo similarly, he's got a guy coming after him. He reaches up to defend himself, gets called for a penalty. Well, Bruce Cassidy's response to that was, those might not be disciplined choices, and we need to avoid that. But think of all the penalties that Alex Pietrangelo and Chandler Stevenson have killed off over the years. Other guys need to step up and support their teammates. We need more of that. Because that how they feel when they make a bonehead maneuver. They geez, I hope the guys get me out of this. That's number one, and I think that's a good team mindset to have. Where John Stevens, assistant coach, has said everybody's got to feel important, and with this team, that has been the case. And then number two on Marchessault, Bruce Cassidy pointed out this morning and he asked the media, in what game last year did Marchessault score his first playoff goal? And the answer is Game 8. He didn't score a goal until Game 8 and obviously went on to win the Conn Smythe as the best player in the playoffs. I mean, Jack Eichel has been the best Golden Knights forward in this series. He's got 7 points, a point in each game. But there are no points for Pietrangelo, no points for Theodore, no points for Carlson, no points for Watt. It might be Marchessault, who will today play with Jack Eichel and Tomas Hertl, but it might be Ivan Barbashev, who plays with Stone and Stevenson for the first time. So there are enough weapons there. I don't know if it's got to be Marchessault. Of course, could be, because he's been so clutch over the years.
Right.
But one of those guys who has not delivered of late, you would love to see make a contribution, because it was William Karlsson who had 5 goals in the first round against Winnipeg. Theodore, Carlson, and Pietrangelo each have at least a point in every playoff series they've played in a Knights uniform, and right now none of them do.
So, Dan, obviously, if you're the Knights, you want to extend the series and make it a 1-game series. You want this to go back to Dallas. With that being said, you obviously don't want to lose 3 home games in a row, and you don't want the last game of your season to be on home ice. As you mentioned, the last time in the playoffs that happened was back in 2018. So, I mean, not that you need more extra motivation. Their backs are against the wall, but I would imagine that's just something extra you put on the list, right? You don't want your last game to be on home ice. You don't want to lose 3 home games in a row. You don't want to lose 4 games in a row in a series.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll also point out that the 2018 Stanley Cup Final, which, again, as you pointed out, was the Game 5 loss against Washington, the last time that they had a season come to an end at T-Mobile Arena. That was also the only other time they have lost 4 consecutive playoff games. That's the only time. And by the way, that was the first ever 4-game losing streak in franchise history.
Unbelievable.
Regular season or playoffs.
Unbelievable.
So they're trying to avoid that here again today. And obviously, that's a lot of history rather than prophecy, but it is a matter of the players who have been through it before. I mean, Ivan Barbashev and Alex Pietrangelo have both played 7-game series against the Dallas Stars. The Golden Knights played a 7-game series against Pete DeBoer when he was with the San Jose Sharks. Like there has been all of that before, so I suppose that experience counts for something. And if you can ride the wave of the home crowd, boy, that can be an intimidating place to play, as the NHL Players Poll has proven. Players voted T-Mobile Arena, hardest, most intimidating place to play.
Yeah, it's loud. It's like a nightclub in there. It's a lot of fun. All right, last question, Dan, before we let you go. I know you're not one necessarily to make predictions. I seem to feel like Dallas is a great team. We know that. But I feel like with all the experience that the Knights have, winning the Stanley Cup last year, the pride on the line, you want to win the series. You definitely don't want to lose it at home. I just feel like the Knights are going to find a way to extend this series. They're going to find a way to win this hockey game and extend it. That's just my feeling based on the experience factor with this team. What are your thoughts on that?
You would like to think that. They have so often over the years come up with those incredible moments, and it feels like they are due for one of those. They played well the first couple of games of the series, and really after their poor start in Game 3, I think that they played well even in the three losses. They just have been off a beat. They haven't finished. That one extra pass, and credit to Dallas, they have been strong, but they are... to make a football analogy, they're not the 85 Bears either. Like they can be scored upon. They have done well against the Knights. There haven't been a lot of power plays in the series, as lowest power play series of any series in the first round. So I wonder how much today's game will look like the last few, and maybe the Knights come out on the right side of it. Or, with all the energy that Vegas is expected to bring in an elimination game, do they come out rocking? And remember, in Game 6 of the conference final, which was the closeout game in that series with Vegas winning and Dallas losing, the Knights walloped them. It was 6-0 in Dallas, and it was one of the most impressive single games, playoffs or otherwise, the Knights have ever played. It was Game 6 last year. So maybe it'll be a showing like that, or maybe it'll be nip and tuck like it's been the last 5 games in this series right now.
Boy, wouldn't that be nice to have maybe a 3-goal lead in the third period? And because it's been such a high-stress series, right? So that could pay dividends too. But obviously the most important thing is just find a way to win the hockey game, and let's hope they do that. Dan, I look forward to hearing your call on the game tonight. You're one of the best in the business, and I always appreciate it when you take some time to join us on the show, my friend. And we'll see you out there at T-Mobile Arena tonight. Let's get a W, and thanks for the time, my friend, as always.
My pleasure, Brian. Thanks. Enjoy it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's Dan Duve, everybody, the voice of the Vegas Golden Knights. Does a great job. And I really, really appreciate it when he takes the time to come on, even on game days, because we know he's got some work to do. Yes, I'm going with my gut feeling on this, and it is a large gut. I'm going with my feeling, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights are going to find a way to win the hockey game tonight. I don't think this is a very good game to bet on. I'll be honest with you. I think it's close to a coin flip, and the odds tell you that. I just feel like with the experience that the Vegas Golden Knights have, they don't want to lose this. They don't want to lose the series at all, but you definitely don't want to. You don't want to lose it at home either. Friday night, it's going to be jam-packed in there. It's going to be loud. I want to address something else real quickly before we go here. We have a few more minutes. I've been talking a lot about fans and interactions with players in the NBA. I talked a little bit about LeBron James and the fact that he kind of fake, assaulting somebody. I don't even know what you call that. Just doing one of these to a female fan on the sidelines, which I thought was classless, and he should be suspended for it, or at least fined for it. And then we had another situation last night, and I just think Patrick Beverley is a high emotion guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. He's a hard worker. He's a good player. But Patrick Beverley got into a situation yesterday that I thought was inexcusable. He threw a ball at a fan last night forcefully, which could injure a fan. This is worse than the LeBron James situation. And there has to be some accountability here. We see a lot of these players that have been bitching and complaining about fans. And listen, I've been very clear on this. Just because you pay for a ticket doesn't mean you should be allowed to swear. It doesn't mean you should be allowed to talk about somebody's family or threaten somebody or, God forbid, say something racist. Those are all over the line, and you should be kicked out and never to be allowed back. And listen, if you say the F word not at a player, or you say the F word because the other team makes a shot, that's not what I'm talking about. All fans from time to time talk like that. I'm talking about swearing at a player, saying F you to a player on the court, or, that type of behavior cannot be tolerated. So I'm with the players when it comes to that sort of stuff. Okay, don't get me wrong. But what about if a player says you suck, or if a fan says you suck, or you call Russell Westbrook Russell Westbrick? There's nothing wrong with that. You pay for a ticket. You should be allowed to haze the other team without threatening and swearing and that sort of stuff. And now it's getting a little bit out of hand where the players want to bitch and moan and complain. these prima donnas that are getting paid $20, $30 million a year. And then Patrick Beverley picks up a basketball. And I would call that assault, by the way. What Patrick Beverley did yesterday was assault. If a player throws anything at a fan, I'm not talking about a Sharpie in a jersey so he can sign something. I'm talking about forcefully throwing a ball at somebody's chest. That is assault. Patrick Beverley should be suspended. And I've had it with these prima donna players. I've had it. Do you know what players in the 80s had to go through? Paul McKeskey, a personal friend of mine, he does the show every week. Some of the disgusting things that have been said to my friend Paul in the Boston Garden when he was playing against the Celtics in the 80s. Guess what? He sucked it up. And he did his job. You know why? Because they call that a professional. Patrick Beverley is a disgrace. If you don't believe me, you can watch the video yourself. He assaulted a fan. He forcefully threw a basketball at a fan. That can't happen. And the NBA needs to do something about this. Okay? The NBA needs to do something about this. Now, the fan threw the ball at him, not forcefully. It was like an underhand throw to Beverley. And then Beverley takes the basketball, chucks it at him with two hands. That can't happen. I am telling you, the NBA commissioner needs to do something about this. And I hope Patrick Beverley is suspended because they need to be taught a lesson. This type of behavior cannot be tolerated. And, listen, I understand emotions are high. It's the NBA playoffs, which have been fantastic, by the way. I'm sticking by my guns. The Boston Celtics are going to win it all. I'm sticking by my guns if Porzingis is healthy. If Porzingis is not healthy, then I don't think they beat a team like the Denver Nuggets. But the NBA playoffs have been great. The NHL playoffs have been very exciting. Arguably, the Boston Bruin Toronto Maple Leaf series has been unbelievable. It's been such an entertaining series. And just the games have been a lot of fun to watch. And this series has been fantastic too. But, sports is a good escape. I'll be honest with you. I went to a political event yesterday, and I spoke at the event. I was asked to speak. And I talked about, all these college campus protests going on throughout the country. What did Donald Trump say today? We are so divided as a country, more so than ever before in my lifetime. I'm 44 years old. And we're divided racially. We're divided politically. And it can affect your mental health. I have to watch the news. I have to. And it's usually all negative. I have to watch the news because I have to inform on the show and I have to know what I'm talking about, right? I have to know the topics, the biggest stories of the day, and I have to have strong opinions on them. And that's what I do on this show every day. But it definitely at times affects my mental health. And sports is an escape. It's a great escape, right? Watching a game on television, going to a Vegas Golden Knights game, going to a boxing fight, going to a UFC event, going to these types of events, it's a great escape from stresses and everyday problems that people have. You might have issues with your job, right? You might have financial problems, relationship problems. Life has a lot of stresses. You could be getting over the loss of a loved one, or there's so many different things that people are going through, right? And I try to understand that when I talk to people. But sports is a great escape for that. Playing sports, playing golf to me is one of the most relaxing things for me that I can do. And it's a great escape. But the next 6 months, and this is non-sports related, the next 6 months politically are going to be the craziest 6 months arguably in the history of politics. Mark my words. I don't know what's going to happen in November. I can give you a guess. I can give you a prediction. I do think Joe Biden is going to win. I think it's going to be very close. I could be wrong. But the next 6 months are going to be crazy. If you don't think they're already not crazy now, it's till November. I mean, this is going to be wild. So I'm not trying to act as therapist. I'm not trying to act as your personal doctor. All I'm simply saying is sports are a great escape. Playing sports, watching sports, not thinking about politics, not thinking about Joe Biden or Donald Trump, not thinking about what the future beholds for you. So it's fun. And it's the greatest reality television on the planet, sports. And it's one of my favorite times of the year. The other favorite time of the year for me, of course, is the NCAA tournament, March Madness. But the time of the year, when we get to May, where we're deep, not deep, but we're right in the middle of the NBA playoffs. We're right in the middle of the NHL playoffs. So it's a lot of fun. On Monday, Chris Wynn's going to be joining us in studio, by the way. Always fun when he comes in. And we got some special guests. On Wednesday, Aaron Ford, the Attorney General, doesn't do many interviews at all. He's giving me an hour. He's coming in studio on Wednesday. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Eva Chase on Tuesday. We're going to have Lisa Guerrero joining us on the show. Actress, famous sportscaster, posed for Playboy. I have to throw that one in there too. She's going to be joining us next week as well. Please join me. Support what I do. Go to my website, which is ptlradio.com, my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. Of course, I'm on TikTok. Of course, we're on X. But those are the best ways to contact me. We put our email at the bottom as well, so you can see that. And I hope everybody has a safe weekend out there, man. I really do. And, we rely on all of you to keep watching and to spread the word. I get people all the time that say, hey, Brian, how can I help you? How can I help the show? How can I help you? Spread the word, man. We had 6,000 people watching live today. That's great. We'd like to get it at 10,000 every day if we can. But it's one of the fastest growing shows in town, certainly one of the fastest growing shows across the country. We get calls from everywhere. Today was a perfect example of that. All over the country. Calls from Minnesota, calls from New York, Boston, Florida. That's the way I like it. I love my locals here in Las Vegas, but I love hearing from everybody all across the country. So thank you all for joining us. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and we will catch you on Monday, same time, same place. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice